Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of RPGs with Paddy. I'm Paddy. So, today we're going to continue this August mini series looking at the excellent work of
Zgrozy.
They publish really top notch Call of Cthulhu supplements, and they publish them on Drivethrurpg. And they are having a sale of 5 of their supplements right now, and you can get them for about 50% off. All of the proceeds of this are going towards getting the company back on its feet, and also so that they can prepare a print on demand anthology, which is great for all of us. So head on over to Drivethrurpg and support them now. I will give links in the description, but this is not a sponsored review. I just really like their stuff, and I wanted to let you know when there's a good deal on. Today's review is about the Sower, and in this scenario, you are invited to a cozy cafe to listen to a lecture by renowned artist Thaddeus Wranitzky. It's set at some point after the Great War, after World War One, so in the classics kind of 1920s era. The location, however, is very easily movable, and the scenario makes a few assumptions that it should be in Europe, but equally it could be anywhere with a little bit of work. Now, just before we get to our normal spoiler warning, I'm also going to read the content warning as it appears in the PDF. The Sower deals with hopelessness, suicidal ideations, and post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. Keepers are encouraged to discuss these content warnings with players before the game and implement safety tools such as Xcard, lines and veils, and other available tools. The TTRPG Safety Toolkit is a great free resource and can be found in this link. So this link is clickable in the PDF, and I'm going to include that link in the description too. It has nothing to do with this scenario, it's just safety tools in general. So if you are a player or thinking about playing this game, please stop watching now before we get into spoilers. But if you're a keeper or a prospective keeper, let's find out what the Sower is all about. So in the Sower, we have a new mythos entity. It's described as a nothingness, and if you've seen the Never-Ending Story, it kind of reminded me of that, but with more consciousness and malice. It detests its own existence, but even more, it hates the existence of other beings. So it wants to destroy everything else and then destroy itself, so we end up with nothingness. It is naturally attracted to people who are deep in despair. And at the moment, one such person is Thaddeus Wranitzky. He was really badly affected by war, and he did a number of paintings about the horrors of war. And right now, let me just tell you, the people over at
Zgrozy.
have provided 6 excellent pieces of art. The graphic designers do these, which I'll show here. So the Sower has been attracted to Wranitzky's despair, and this has changed his art style. So he is going to hold a lecture about having this change of heart and a change of his art style in the Waking Dream Cafe, which can be placed anywhere you want. And the scenario takes place all within this cafe. So the scenario is relatively short. It's just going to be a one-shot scenario, but it can be added into pretty much any campaign as well. The scenario itself can be broken down into 3 stages. Talking to people, mingling before the lecture itself, and the aftermath of the lecture and potentially the manifestation of the Sower. In the initial stage, you're going to relax in the cafe and talk to the other guests. There are 4 pre-generated characters you can choose from, which have a lot of detail and connection to the story. And then there are 4 more NPCs with nice, easy role-playing hooks, unique for each of them, that really ties them closely to this scenario. So this is fantastic, and all 8 of them have little cheat sheets with their key information on them, just talking about like their connection and what's important to them. This is so that the players can easily know and remember who each person is and what their connection is. Because in a short scenario, it's very important, especially if there's, 8 characters or more, it's important to be able to quickly remember who's who. There is also a cheat sheet like this for Vrnitsky too. You don't need to include all of these NPCs, and of course you don't need to use the pre-generated characters either. You can use, original characters created just for this, or existing investigators as well. But it is recommended that you have some connection with Vrnitsky or some of the other patrons, or both ideally. Some of the role-playing hooks that they give you for the NPCs are fantastic as well. This cafe, which the players may or may not have been to, features some unique dishes, which described there. Now, a lot of the players that I've played RPGs with are always suspicious when there's a special item on the menu, or, when I specifically bring up eating. It might be to do with the fact that I had some of them poisoned by cannibals, but that's fine. But anyway, play into that paranoia as well. So let them think there's something strange about this cafe, which, there isn't really. One of the potential NPCs has a role-playing hook that she, I believe, will insist on buying the most expensive item for you. And she'll cover that. So maybe she might even be able to get you something from a secret menu. That's not in the game, but, you could easily make it. But yeah, there's nothing strange about the food, but that doesn't mean that your players won't think that there is. And if their focus is on that, then the subtle changes that are going to happen could be even more impactful once they kind of get in there subtly, and then the players start to realize, oh my God, we're focusing on the wrong thing altogether. But anyway, the story goes on. So you're going to mingle with the other guests, potentially the owner of the cafe, and then Vrnitsky is going to come in and he's going to give his lecture. Now, just a side note here as well. He doesn't know anything about the Miss Sower or the threat that his lecture poses. He just had a change of heart. Now, it was thanks to the Miss Sower, but he doesn't know that. And he thinks that this lecture is a real public service for everyone. So the scenario then breaks down his lecture into different sections, and it gives small little bits of read aloud text for the different sections, and you can use this, or you can use it as inspiration, or you can read directly, or you can just use this as a jumping off point and say whatever you want. Now, as the lecture goes on, the investigators and or some of the NPCs may interrupt the lecture, and this is a good thing. Vrnitsky can use his soul-piercing gaze, which is his special ability, to see the interrupter's biggest fear or their biggest regret or anything like that. And he will talk about it and say that his new art style will help them overcome it, or will help combat this, or will help address this problem. But early in his lecture, Vrnitsky will produce this piece. This piece is starting to increase the Sower's power over this location, the cafe. And there are 3 versions of this painting in the scenario. The first one is this one is introduced to the crowd, and it's kind of faint. The second one has the full picture very clearly, and it also has some phrases on it. This one you cut up into a number of pieces. It suggests 3 per investigator, and give them out at specific times based on the weirdness in the cafe growing. And we'll go into a little bit of detail of that later. These represent visions and or whispers that the investigators experience. So keep them as fragments. It's only once they piece the words together that they can hear the full sentences properly. Although these will still be faint whispers, just like out of the corner of your eye. Same thing with your ear. Once enough pieces have been handed out, the picture shown to the guests changes to this unfaded version. And you can see in these 2 versions, there is the black figure as well. This is the Miss Sower, but the faded version doesn't have that. When this one is shown to the guests, this black figure will step out of the painting to try to enact its plan, which is to destroy everyone in the cafe and then itself. Well, as in this physical manifestation of it. This is not the end of the Sower of Mist, or the Mist Sower. The lecture and the power of the Mist Sower are divided into 3 stages, depending on how many pieces of the center image, the cut-up image, have been handed out to the investigators. As the phases progress, the outside of the cafe starts getting darker, and a faint mist starts appearing in small little places in the cafe, and that starts growing, and things that are touched by the mist start to disappear. This includes some smaller and some larger objects, and even words on the menu. This is another great handout that they've given you. They give you the standard menu to have at the start, and then this altered menu where some of the words are missing. So really great production value here. So I talked a lot about giving those pieces, but when do you give these pieces of the picture to the investigators? The Sower in the art form or in its realized form, so while it's still the painting or when it comes out of the painting, can try to hypnotize an investigator or an NPC just at any point throughout this. Usually if they're, drawing attention to themselves or asking questions or interrupting the lecture. If this is successful, you would give the investigators one piece of the larger puzzle, of the larger picture, if it was an NPC who was hypnotized, and then reveal 2 pieces if it was an investigator that was hypnotized. Similarly, when Vrenitsky uses his soul-piercing gaze to find out someone's greatest pain or fear or regret, then you would also reveal 1 piece of the picture if the target was an NPC, or 2 pieces if it was one of the investigators. You could also, if you wanted, if you found that this was a little bit too slow, you could reveal more if the players start noticing weird things. But I would say don't have it be so easy to get all of the clues. It's good to let that confusion and that paranoia kind of build up slowly, because once they have all of the pieces, then that's really going to bring it to the climax of the scenario as well. Pieces do also get revealed the longer the lecture goes on uninterrupted, so there's a mechanic there as well. So just for the number of pieces, if you have 4 players, it's suggested that you cut the image into 12 pieces. So 3 pieces per investigator. And then the Sower would come out of the picture, after you have given 8 pieces to the investigators. So that's twice as many pieces as there are investigators. So I would say, yeah, let it take its time. But they give you some tips for this, which is start with affecting the NPCs. So start your focus on those. And then later, if need be, you can move over to the investigators. The second thing is don't make it too supernatural, especially early on. You don't want to draw too much attention to it. And then the third point is similar to the second point, is play it carefully. The Mist Sower is patient and doesn't want to rush it or cause something really unnatural to happen to draw too much attention. It's more of a slow build up to this. There's also a list of suggestions about how the investigators would be able to weaken the Sower throughout the point of the lecture. Now, they might not know what they're doing, but this is happening. And just kind of keep a track of that as well. So basically that is how the scenario plays out, and there are 3 main possible outcomes. The Mist Sower wins, and everybody in the cafe and the cafe itself will disappear. The second option is the Mist Sower does materialize, but the investigators manage to escape. Or third, the Mist Sower never materializes, so they manage to stop it before that happens. Or the Mist Sower does materialize, but the players manage to destroy it. Each outcome is detailed here, which also includes any rewards that might be applicable depending on the outcome. Remember, even if the investigators do defeat the Sower, it is not completely destroyed, and it will target others in despair elsewhere in the world or in the city. And this could be others who were present at the meeting, maybe some of the NPCs who had got a glimpse into their biggest fears or something like that. Or it could just be random other people the investigators come across in the future. One idea that I really like that's given here is the Mist Sower hates all of existence as well. So it's not confined to just hating humanity. And one thing you could have here, and is given as a suggestion, is if the Mist Sower is targeting a group of deep ones. And it could be that, the deep ones reach out to the investigators, or the investigators discover the situation. And then it could become kind of a bit of a moral dilemma about whether to help them escape from this nothingness or allow it to destroy their community. This is probably a little bit more, well, it's definitely a little bit more on the pulpy side, but you could apply the same idea to any kind of group that you kind of disliked, where, maybe them being destroyed by the nothingness would be good. For example, using previously defeated antagonists from prior scenarios or something like that. But it kind of becomes that strange dilemma for them. Along with these future plot seeds, which is there's a few more of them as well, we do get some suggestions about how the investigators could investigate the Mist Sower after the scenario plays out. So all of this scenario is set inside the cafe. You don't have a chance to kind of look this up in advance, but it gives us some suggestions about how it might be done if you were keeping this going beyond just a one-shot. And then there's actually something which I think is quite unusual, is that there is a nice list of recommended music for the scenario, which I think that's a really cool addition, and I think maybe more scenarios should include that if it's relevant. You might not want any or all of the songs recommended there, but it's nice to put it in anyway, and a nice idea for you if you're looking for what would be appropriate music for that. So basically that is the frame of this scenario. I really like it. It's short, it's simple, but it really builds the tension throughout. The idea of using art, I think, is also something great and something really underutilized in Call of Cthulhu and a lot of these horror games. Music and art, I think, could be used a lot more. And in this one, there's also the misleading early art, which the graphic designers at Zgrozy made, and I'll just show them again. These really look mythos related, but really it's just art. So that's a nice misleading part. It's actually the newer art that is mythos related. If you do like this idea, you might also want to check out Dreamhounds of Paris, which is a Trail of Cthulhu supplement dealing with the idea of surrealist painters experiencing the dreamlands. So also the folks over at
Zgrozy
have done an incredible job by providing a great idea, amazing handouts and illustrations, solid advice throughout it, clear seeds for future scenarios, and as I said, even music recommendations. If you think the scenario sounds interesting, go get it now for a discount at Drivethrurpg. It's only about $3.50. The discount is applicable until the end of August 2023, and the proceeds will go towards them putting out a print-on-demand anthology. So go support some great creators. But that is all for today. If you liked the video, consider liking and subscribing. But whether you do or not, thank you for watching this far. And okay, so I will see you guys next time. Take it easy, everyone. Bye.